Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So we are starting a new book entitled Perfect Questions, Perfect Answers. And this is a very, very famous book in ISKCON. Particularly a lot of new devotees, they read this book. It has one of the longest subtitles, Conversations between His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society of Krsna Consciousness, and Bob Cohen, Peace Corps worker in India. So this book is very famous because it was printed, you can say, around the early 70s after, this conversation took place. And it was reprinted and massively published around 76. And it's one of the earliest books, which the title itself was given by Srila Prabhupada. So this happened in Mayapur when Bob Cohen had come, and when he met with Srila Prabhupada. And the conversation, the first interaction was not recorded, as he will mention here, but the conversation was going on so interestingly that at the time, Shyam Sundar Prabhu, who was the secretary of Srila Prabhupada, after recording it for about a meeting of 3 days, he was saying, wow, this is such a brilliant conversation. We should make it a book. Yes, Prabhupada says, and we will call it Perfect Questions and Perfect Answers. Okay. So before we begin, I'll just like to show how this book has evolved. Okay, you can see here the personality. This is Bob Cohen in the early days, right? This is the person who was speaking. He became later, of course, Srila Prabhupada's disciple, Brahma Tirtha Prabhu. And these are the books, from the earliest days. Some of maybe you've had the earlier copies, right? Perfect Question, Perfect Answers. And then some of the later, newer copies by the BBT, right? For the fitting the times, very nice colored illustrations compared to the older were all showing pictures. This is showing pictures of Vrindavan, last photo, and the middle ones are showing pictures in Mayapur, something like that. So anyways, let us begin. So today for this session that we're discussing, we're just going to look at the introduction, not through any of the chapters, but directly to the concluding words. So this whole discussion today is going to talk about the background of this book, about Bob Cohen, about meeting with Srila Prabhupada. The introduction is written by himself, and the conclusion as well. Okay, so we're just going to look at that. Let's start with introduction. A perfectly presumptuous title, he himself says. To say perfect questions, perfect answers, isn't it being presumptuous? Isn't it being a little too much? Isn't it being a little, I don't want to say egoistic? Perfect question, perfect answers? Really? So here's Bob Cohen speaking. He writes, 33 years have passed since I sat near the Ganges River having the conversation described in this book. So this was in 1972, and he's writing his introduction later, some years later, right? Since it was first published in 1976, I have shared many copies. Often it has been very difficult to explain away a title that talks about my perfect questions, right? So it's so presumptuous to say that I ask perfect questions. For in 1972, I was 22 years old and quite far from perfection. So as I had shared earlier about the link of the conversation, the recent conversation in around 2001, which happened online with Bob Cohen after so many years. So I'm going to put that link in the comment section as well. You have to watch that. So he speaks, that to say it's perfect, I don't think so. He kind of stumbled upon ISKCON, stumbled upon Srila Prabhupada, and it's a beautiful journey. He continues to say, yet my partner in conversation, Srila Prabhupada, suggested the title Perfect Question, Perfect Answers. And he was quite humble about himself. So when he was saying perfect answers, Srila Prabhupada is very, very humble because this is answers based on the Shastra. How did all this perfection came about? So much perfection, let's see. So he gives a little background for himself, which is important for us to understand. My conservative Jewish family, so very conservative Jewish family, instilled in me an inner longing to understand God. So he said his background was religious, born in America, but Jewish family. Self-discovery and anti-war protests highlighted my college years. Right? In the young time, during that time, America was having the Vietnam War and so on and so forth. So understanding the self. Though in 1971, I did manage to graduate from Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, which is situated in New York. Now, this is a private college. It's one of the top colleges. If you want to compare this with anything in India, it will be equivalent to IIT. okay, with a degree in chemistry. So he hold a degree in chemistry. Now, the interesting thing about Bob Cohen at the time, whereas most youth in America at the time were hippies and experimenting with psychedelic drugs, Bob Cohen was an academician. He was a very educated person. He had a degree, right? He was an educator. He was into academics. He was into science. This is the kind of person that Srila Prabhupada is going to be conversing with. In that milieu, that means in that situation, in that context, in that environment of introspection and protest, I became fascinated by Hare Krishna chanting, which I first heard in the late 60s. Actually, he heard this in 1968 in Greenwich Village. Greenwich Village is a small area of lower Manhattan in New York. All right. So in 1968, he had seen devotees doing Harinam Sankirtan around Manhattan, around New York. And, and he had also heard about the Bhagavad Gita, the premiere on yoga, right? The first-hand knowledge giving about yoga. I had learned that yoga means union with God, as we have seen in our past readings, right? Yoga means to connect, and yoga means to add, yoga, right? Yoga, to connect. The concepts of yoga attracted me, yet it did not contradict the tenets of my upbringing. That means it did not contradict his Jewish upbringing. Still, the presentation of yoga in America troubled me. Right? Every week, the New York Daily News ran a centerfold of the latest Indian guru proclaiming his enlightenment to the world. So here Bob Cohen is expressing his a little frustration or disgust that at that time in New York, a lot of people, right, a lot of Indian so-called gurus were coming in, and the New York Daily magazine, right, newspaper would always, in the centerfold, would put a picture of a new guru, Indian guru, saying, I'm God, I'm this, I'm a Baba, I have magic, or whatnot. I can give you self-realization, real meaning of life, so all things. And Bob kind of felt a little frustrated with all this. Who could I trust? It seemed I needed to go to the source. Things that coming out of America may not be so real, he thought. Mystical, faraway India. If you want to get the truth, go to the source, he was thinking. So after college, after graduation, the Peace Corps looked like an attractive way for me to explore India and to live in a village, to learn the language, generally check out the Gita and the chanting. So many of us probably were not from the Americas, will not know what Peace Corps is. Peace Corps is an organization which was started by Kennedy, President Kennedy at the time. It still exists, it's still running. Basically, America at the time was a superpower, big superpower. And Kennedy felt that, instead of just exploiting the world, let us send smart, educated Americans to help and go and develop other countries around the world, right? So John F. Kennedy started it, and it is continuing till today. Now, the highlight of this Peace Corps is that many people like to join, to explore, to learn. It's like a fellowship program. Nowadays, a lot of NGOs are having fellowship programs. So it's like a 2-year program. You have to go somewhere around the world. They give you some stipend, they give you some money from the government, but basically you get to go and amalgamate and learn and develop, and a project come out of it. So Peace Corps, when it began, they had a few hundred followers, few hundred fellows, it came to thousands. At the time of this time, especially 1968, 1970, Peace Corps had the highest amount of volunteers, 15,000 people in a year. And then later budget system and all, they went down, right? They cut it down. So they don't have so much now. But it was a good, and at that time, no one wanted to go India. No one wanted to go to India. Everyone was scared or worried of disease and sickness. So the moment Bob Cohen applied that, through the Peace Corps, let me go to India, they were like, yes, come on. So what did he do in India? Let's see. India was not as I had imagined. Abject poverty, that means absolutely destitute, horrible situation, poverty, was, as I discovered, for the most part, an urban phenomenon. So poverty, okay, absolute poverty or horrible situational poverty was seen mostly in the cities, urban phenomenon. It's an urban problem, right? Because people migrate to the cities, they have no land, no living quarters, no domicile, no nothing, looking for a job. Most of the time they end up on the streets. It's a horrible situation. But contrast this with the village, he says, Bob Cohen continues to say, Though beggars swarmed through the cities, the countryside was lush with farms and peaceful villages of content people, satisfied people, happy people. A subtle, elusive transcendence permeated everything. Everything felt so transcendental. The village life, right? Even in India today 68% to 70% of India lives in the rural areas, right? India is a village-based country, right? So that was culture actually. Whereas, many times Prabhupada also says city is an artificial living where everyone conglomerate in one place, no proper dwelling, no proper this. But city life, village life means you have a house, you have a land, you live off the land, you live off nature, very natural setting, peaceful, content people. So here in this one short paragraph of 2.5 lines, right? Bob Cohen is giving the contrast between urban and rural setting in India, which was at that time, 1970s, but we can say it's still existing today. So after starting my assignment at a high school as a high school science teacher in Bihar, so that's what he was doing. Through the Peace Corps, he came to Bihar. He was stationed in Bihar, and actually in the interview, I came to know that he was stationed in the southern part of Bihar, which today is Jharkhand, and that is very close to Bengal. Okay, so that's why he's going to meet Srila Prabhupada. Very close to Bengal, in the southern part of Bihar, which is today Jharkhand, the state separated, and he was working as a science school teacher. So I began visiting temples, mosques, church, and it was disenchanting. It was not attractive at all. It was despicable, in fact. Why? The congregations were not seeking realization. They were seeking money, good luck, prestige. So people would come and they would see that, oh, these people don't want self-realization. These people just want monetary benefits. These people just want blessings, right? These people just want fame, name. He was very disgusted by it. It was a religious version of the 70s TV show, Let's Make a Deal. So in the 1970s, there's a TV show in America called Let's Make a Deal. I think it's still continuing in different forms. It got stopped, it started again in America. Let's Make a Deal. Basically, from the audience, many people will sit, there'll be a host and there'll be a model to show the price. There'll be something hidden and they'll call out someone from the audience randomly. They'll choose someone and you become the trader. So you trade for something, you get something, you pitch, and there's a hidden price. Do you want to take it, not take it, trade it off, something like that? You play with the game and let's make a deal. Okay, deal. And then they'll open up the curtain. And sometimes it's something as funny as, a piece of paper or a small book, or even once a rabbit or something like a llama. They put an animal once. Or it could be as extravagant as winning a new car, a boat. So it's all, kind of like a TV show risk gambling deal kind of thing. So he was saying that it's like a religious version of it. Everyone goes to God and make a deal. My Lord, please help me pass in my exams. I'll give you 100 coconuts. Oh, my Lord, please. So he was a little disenchanted with all this. Had I traveled halfway around the world and endured Delhi belly only to find the same shallow values I had seen in materialistic America? He's saying I went around the world, right, tens of thousands of miles around the world, and the same materialistic things are there, which I saw in America. People are the same in India as well. And he had to endure Delhi belly. Delhi belly is a term where a person gets stomach ache, sickness because of traveling in India, some infection. I had met various gurus, but remained unimpressed. So this was his first analysis or observation of India. He was not very pleased with it. He thought that coming here, there'll be answers to life at every corner, right? My existential, the existence search began to go up in smoke, right? Wasted, time pass. In February 1972, I visited Calcutta. So like I said, Jharkhand is close by during a school break, okay? There were the Hare Krishna devotees, mostly Westerners, chanting as I had seen them in Greenwich Village. So in Calcutta, in our temple, which still exists today in Albert Road, right, in Calcutta, they were seeing devotees doing Harinam Sankirtan, chanting there. At the time, His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj and so many other devotees were there. They invited me to visit a retreat 100 miles north of Calcutta, deciding it fit in well with my quest. I agreed. So basically, they had invited him to go to what today is Mayapur, Sri Mayapur Dham, which is the spiritual headquarters of ISKCON. Right? 100 miles north of Calcutta in the Nadia district is Mayapur. Beautiful temple projects coming up still, and big property, everything is there. It's a wonderful place right now. But at that time is the initial years, 1972. They just purchased some paddy fields. We took a train through the verdant Bengali countryside to Mayapur, a beautiful spot near the Ganges River. Upon arriving, I discovered that Mayapur was more a planned retreat, a spiritual retreat. For now, it was recently purchased rice paddy with tents and a hut. However, the paddy was near a sacred birthplace of the famed medieval saint and Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Right? So this is Mayapur, where the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya is. And in the hut was a founder of the international Krsna movement himself, an elderly gentleman named Srila Prabhupada. At the time, Srila Prabhupada was also in Mayapur. His followers were busy running a soup kitchen. So soup kitchen is also a term that is found in America. In 1930s, they started the soup kitchen where they were giving out free soups. Basically, a soup kitchen is a term used for what we call in India as Annakshetra or Bandara or something like that, no? Where you can go and get free meals. Sometimes even if they charge, it's very cheap, lower than the market value. But in America, initially, they used to be soups, right? They used to just be giving out soups. That's why it got the name as soup kitchen. But later, they started giving meals as well. So basically, his followers running a soup kitchen means this Food for Life program. Okay. For the many refugees from the recent Indo-Pakistani war. So this is also interesting. 1972, there was a war. At that time, Bangladesh was East Pakistan. So Pakistan and then East Pakistan. And there was a war that Bangladesh wanted independence, and Pakistan had attacked India. India retaliated, won the war, and that also led to the independence of Bangladesh. So because of that, there was a lot of refugees, Hindus were coming in, Muslims were crossing, people, all this were happening, you know. I plunked down in the men's tent in Mayapur and volunteered for the food relief effort, Food for Life. There were 60 or so Krishna followers, mostly American and European, and under 25 years old, very young. They were enthusiastic, to say the least. Many were anxious to share their persuasion with the only English-speaking guest, me. Right? This is very light sarcasm. Anxious to share their persuasion means they were very, open or bold and convincing, wanting to just speak and preach and, proselytize and, so he was like I would not say victim, but he was the target for all of them. Now, this is interesting. From here, we can understand that Bob Cohen, I would not say that he was reluctant, but he had some little resistance in immediately surrendering or accepting Krishna conscious, because he was an educated person, young gentleman who was looking for the real thing. And therefore, he was kind of like observing and studying everything, not jumping headfirst into anything. However, I was invited to meet Srila Prabhupada, and I sensed that this was the reason I had come to India. Now, for the perfect questions part that had caused me so much discomfort, so now he's feeling to justify why is it called perfect questions. Okay, fine. The Bhagavad Gita, the premier on transcendence, includes this admonition for the seeker. Right? Bhagavad Gita says, this is 4th chapter, 34th verse, just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master, inquire from him submissively, render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. Okay, so this is the verse. Tat vidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. So according to these instructions, 3 qualifications are there for the novice or a new person, a beginner. 3 qualifications. Visit the guru or approach a guru. Inquire without challenging. Inquire submissively. 3rd, assist the guru. Sevaya. Do some service in some way. These 3 things, the Gita suggests that the guru can impart knowledge when these 3 conditions are met. So one can only get knowledge, get understanding, get wisdom if these 3 things are satisfied. Finding a guru, inquiring submissively, sincerely, honestly to understand, and then serving to get the realization of their instruction. My intention in visiting Srila Prabhupada was to explore rather than to contend. He was not here to debate, to fight. He just wanted to understand. After meeting and studying many self-proclaimed instructors, I was extremely skeptical, extremely doubtful, right? He was doubtful of everything. Yet Srila Prabhupada's followers intrigued me. They brought an interest. Once I got past their zealousness, again, once I got past their eagerness, their bubbling nature of strong preaching, once I got past all that, I found a genuine blend of mysticism and renunciation along with convincing explications, right? It kind of like once you got past that heavy preaching thing, which ISKCON sometimes tend to have, especially in the initial days, when you catch someone, immediately you dump everything on them, make them a devotee overnight, right? So once he got past all that, he actually found a lot of logic behind this. I resolved to spend my time with Srila Prabhupada learning rather than challenging. Later on, I could always decide to accept or reject what I heard. He thought, yeah, it's fine, let me just see. In this way, I met the first and second of the Gita's three credentials. He said, first and second, visit the Guru, inquire. These two things I have done, I'm doing, fine. The famine relief program, right, because of the Indo-Pakistani war, of the Krsna movement also occupied my day. So I was able to meet the number 3 as well, Sevaya, Pariprashnena Sevaya. So I was doing some food relief program. So he qualified for all 3, as the shloka says. From Srila Prabhupada's point of view, I was following the Gita's edicts, hence perfect questions. I was following all 3, so okay, you can say that it's perfect questions. Meanwhile, Srila Prabhupada answered my questions based on this prescription from the Gita. So this is 4.2. So he's actually saying 4.34 is the reason why you can call these perfect questions. And 4.2, shloka in Bhagavad Gita, is the reason why you can call these perfect answers by Srila Prabhupada. Evam parampara praptam imam raja rishayo vido sakale neha mahata yogo nashta parantapa. This supreme science was thus received to the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in this way. So at this point, we can actually just reflect and see how Bob Cohen, he was, educated person coming to India with the desire of self-development, understanding, not wanting to jump into anything, not wanting to immediately buy onto anything, but he was just exploring, right? A little had his reservations, as he would later share in this interview, which I'm speaking about online, which I'm going to share in the comment section. He would say that we had, 50 years difference between Srila Prabhupada and 10,000 miles of cultural and language difference with Srila Prabhupada, world apart. Yet, this is the person that he will surrender onto. Very interesting. Srila Prabhupada answered my questions based on the ancient system of disciplic succession, repeating what he had heard from previous authorities and not making anything up. Thus, I had perfect answers for my respectful questions presented by a humble messenger of his predecessors. The first conversation I had with Srila Prabhupada was not recorded by his secretary. So the first meeting they had was not recorded. What we see in this book is from the second meeting onwards. Therefore, the book begins without our introductions and initial dialogue. All of the substantive matters begin with the second dialogue, the first chapter. May reading my conversation with Srila Prabhupada lead you to your own perfection. Bob Cohen, he gives a blessing like this. So in one part, he would actually share that, and we will see, hopefully we'll see throughout the chapters as we're reading, that it became a little too much. Prabhupada was kind of telling him that, just stay and chant and try and, explore. And he was feeling that, no. And devotees also telling him. So he felt like, no, they're trying to convert me, they're trying to force me. And he felt it was too much. So he will go to Srila Prabhupada and say, Srila Prabhupada, I want to leave. Prabhupada understand. He said, don't leave, leave. And he was like, what? Don't leave, Leave. Don't leave, but live, Live, live. So he found that very profound. My God, really? Don't just move around here, there, but actually live life. And Krishna consciousness gives that to all of us. It gives us the meaning of life. Many people out there who are working, studying, just moving on, they're not living actually. Because how can you live if you do not know the purpose of life? Right? So now we're just going to look at the concluding words as well. This is after the whole book. Now you have seen his journey, but I just thought it's interesting to understand the character of Bob Cohen here. So let us see here. Concluding words. And on July 19, 1976, okay, they met in 1972 in Mayapur. His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, accepted my wife and me as his disciples and initiated us with the names Bhakti Devi Dasi and Brahmanda Tirtha Das. So he shared in the interview that when he came to India, he had a girlfriend at the time who was still in America, and he would write letters to her talking about Krishna, and she didn't know what was happening with his, fiance or boyfriend in India at the time. But when he went back to America and then later explained to her, she also got involved with Hare Krishna. So many years later, 4 years later, they got initiated when they connected to a local temple in America. We're going to read about that. As I reflect back on that day, I can see how fortunate I was to have met His Divine Grace and my God brothers in the Hare Krishna movement. In fact, Bob Cohen of Brahma Tirtha Prabhu was sharing that every day when he was meeting Srila Prabhupada, everyone was so amazed. Yamuna Matini, Yamuna Devi Dasi, so famous in ISKCON for singing that Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. In the deity greetings in all ISKCON temple, she was also there and she was saying that he was so fortunate. Prabhupada is giving you so much time, right? He's meeting you, talking to you. So Bob was saying that he was the only Westerner English-speaking person there. Others were just local people. And Srila Prabhupada would every time look for him and call him. And he felt that, it's such an amazing mercy actually. When I was handed my beads at initiation, I promised to follow the regulative principles, the 4 regulative principles, and to chant God's names daily. 4 years previously, Srila Prabhupada had advised me to follow the principles. So he had felt a little pressure. He had mentioned in his interview that when Prabhupada asked him, are you following the principles? These are the principles. He felt that, oh, you're trying to force me or something. So he said, out of the 4, I'm following 1. Prabhupada's like, okay. So he was, like I said, a little reluctant, but eventually he did. He said that within 6 months, I could be like other devotees, all unnecessary things, anarthas, such as mundane movies, restaurants, would cease to attract me. The whole human life is meant for purification, he said. I was interested in being purified, even though I did not really know what purification meant. Right? Everyone likes, do you want to live a pure life? Everyone says yes, but no one knows what actually a pure life is. I had gone to India with the Peace Corps, hoping to find a higher level of consciousness. I could not believe that satisfying the senses was all in all, yet I myself was bound by the senses. Later, I could understand that yoga means becoming free from the dictation of the senses. Upon returning to America, I started graduate school in geology, got married, and became somewhat entangled in domestic responsibilities. But I would often think of my conversations with Srila Prabhupada and of his instructions. One of his primary instructions was simply to associate with the devotees. And this I gladly did. Devotees are different. By understanding that loving service to the Supreme Lord is the goal of life, they avoid getting caught up in the petty affairs of sense gratification and false ego. The devotees are focused with the seva. Visiting the temple was most refreshing. Gradually, my wife and I became friends with many devotees and wanted somehow to do some service for the movement. I sponsored a Bhakti Yoga club at the university. Okay, he ran that program. And our apartment served as a way station for traveling parties of devotees. Devotees would come, they would stay at their house and, travel on. As we followed Srila Prabhupada's instructions, even our eating became purified. In India, I had told Srila Prabhupada that I could not offer my food as the devotees do because I did not understand that Krishna is God. He did not understand at the time. So he could not offer his food. So he told me to simply thank God for my eating, for my food before eating. So even the Christians and Jewish, I guess, and even Muslims, everyone has this culture, but before eating, they say grace, so they say a prayer and thanking. So this we did, and finally our devotion matured and we started actually offering food to the Supreme Lord properly, cooking cleanly, offering purely. What a wonderful feeling to be cooking for the Supreme Lord. This actually freed us from the control of the tongue. Can you just imagine cooking for God? Instead of going to God asking, please give me, please, that you're cooking for God, to feed God, to give pleasure to God. Finally, we were ready to become involved fully in temple life. By Krishna's grace, I obtained a job near the temple in Texas and began to take part in all the temple programs. In this way, all the anarthas disappeared, just as Srila Prabhupada had predicted. It was like having a burden lifted from our shoulders. We were no longer servants of our senses, but servants of God and his devotees. The value of Srila Prabhupada's instructions had become clear. A human being is not meant to labor like an ass or enjoy like a dog. Purification means coming to a higher level of consciousness. Even though I had been initiated, I still admire my God brothers' spiritual awareness and wish to advance. Actually, initiation is just the beginning. Brahma Tirtha Das Adhikari, Bob Cohen, Houston, Texas, October 16, 1976, when this book was published. Okay. So, last thing before we end. So, there are 9 chapters in this. We will start from our next reading. But before that, this is one of the letters that Srila Prabhupada replies to Bob Cohen directly. And it's a beautiful letter what Srila Prabhupada shares after he had gone back to Los Angeles. After Bob also had gone back to US. So he said, my dear Bob, this is June 16, 1972. Now they had met in early Feb of 1972. So some months later, right, couple of 4 months later, Prabhupada is writing after he had written to Prabhupada. My dear Bob, please accept my blessings. I thank you very much for your letter dated June 12, 1972, and I have noted the sentiments expressed therein with great pleasure. I am very much glad to hear that you are associating with us, and I know that you are a very good boy. So, the Brahma Tirtha Prabhu, Bob Cohen, he would say that Prabhupada likes to always say, you are a very good boy, good boy. He felt like this is something you say to a dog, good dog. So then he realized that, yes, Prabhupada was saying this, and I have become Prabhupada's dog, become Prabhupada's servant. Prabhupada saying, good boy, very intelligent, and your behavior is gentle. So I have all confidence that very quickly Krishna will bestow his blessings upon you. Again, we remember that he got initiated much later. He got initiated late 4 years after meeting, and 1976. So this is 72. Prabhupada is still, giving him so much blessings. And you will feel yourself becoming perfectly happy in Krishna consciousness. One makes his advancement in Krishna consciousness by giving up voluntarily his attachment to material nature or Maya, and such renunciation is called tapasya. But we are not very willing to perform austerities without good reason. Therefore, any man with scientific and philosophical good brain, such as yourself, must appreciate first what is transcendental knowledge. So Prabhupada was stressing that life is meant for purification. Purification means some austerity, but logical, reasonable, educated people are not going to directly jump to do some hardship. Convince them, give them the logic behind it. And he's saying such person as you have to understand knowledge first before you take up to the path of devotion. If you get knowledge, automatically tapasya will follow. Jnana, vairagya, right? These two things. If you have at least jnana, vairagya will follow. And then you make your advancement in spiritual life. So to get knowledge is the first item of anyone who is hoping to find perfection in life. Right? This is a very powerful line. All of us are studying and hearing Srila Prabhupada books because we want to understand. And when we understand, we can practice nicely. Okay. Therefore, I advise you to daily read our books as far as possible and try to understand the subject matter from different angles of vision by discussing frequently with the devotees at the New York temple. In this way, you will become gradually convinced, and by a sincere attitude and devotional service, you will make progress. Yes, by having some faith in me and in this Krishna conscious progress, that is the first and only requirement for getting actual wisdom. How to understand, how to get knowledge, you have to have some faith, shraddha. If there is faith, understanding will follow. And with understanding, renunciation, austerity will follow. And with both of this, bhakti will follow. And as your understanding increases, so you will disgust with the spell of illusionary energy, Maya, and you will voluntarily give up all your entanglements in the material world. Then the progress is assured, right? So this is understanding is what we call as sambandha gyan, knowledge of the relationship, the real relationships of things. Who am I? What is my relationship with this body, this life, this current situation I'm in? What is the eternal relationship of me, God, with this energy, with this world? Understanding the sambandha, the theory of the relationships of everything, that knowledge is so powerful that actually gives us faith and conviction in our practice. I think we are just now typing up the tapes of those conversations we held in Mayapur, right? And we shall be publishing them in a book very soon. It will be called Perfect questions, perfect answers. So Prabhupada gives the title. I shall be sending you one copy as soon as they're ready for distributing. Meanwhile, I shall be stopping in New York for 2 or 3 days on my way to London for the Rath Yatra festival there. I am not certain yet when I shall be arriving in New York, but it shall be sometime in the early part of July. You may keep in regular contact with Vali Mardan. So here handwriting is shown. Okay, here we can see in the photo, regular contact, because there's some Roberts using the typing thing, right? So then he corrected regular contact with Bali Mardan regarding the arrival date, and I shall be very much gladdened to meet with you in New York once again. Again, we shall discuss if you have got any questions. Robert enjoyed them. It's the conversation. Hoping this will meet you in good health and happy mood. Your ever well-wisher, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, sending to Bob Cohen, who was staying in Springfield, New Jersey, right, at that time. So this is very beautiful. And this whole conversation, which what we are reading, is actually, it happened in that small Bhajan Kutir, which is there in Mayapur. So even till today, if you go to Mayapur, you can see the original structure of that Bhajan Kutir is still there at the gate. And they're maintaining it, little doing it up. But that's the place that Prabhupada and Bob Cohen sat and spoke. So for us who are studying this book, last point, we can see that Bob Cohen's life is like all of us. We want it within our hearts. If you ask every Jivatma, every living being, everyone wants a perfect life, everyone wants a pure life, everyone wants a good life, everyone wants a nice life, everyone wants a meaningful life, right? And inside, we're kind of like asking and seeking and finding out, but we get distracted with the attractions that are happening outside. We forgot our goal of life. At the same time, when we come across a genuine thing like Krishna consciousness, there's some, because of our anarthas in our hearts, the doubts in our minds, we fail to take it seriously. Bob Cohen met Srila Prabhupada in 1972. He heard, he associated, he understood, but it took him time to get really convinced, to understand, to grasp, and to give his whole life. It took him 4 years. He got initiated, then he continued lifelong until today. Like I'm sharing with you the video. We're going to share in the link. You can see him, hear him, and how much wonderful that he's actually speaking and sharing his short meeting, but such a powerful meeting. This book, Perfect Question, Perfect Answers, is the most translated book. It has been translated to over than 44 languages across the world because it's such an early publication and it's such a beautiful discussion. So I hope and pray that you'll all stay with us and subsequently hear all these chapters all the way till chapter 9. We're going to discuss each one of it and wishing for the best. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.